This episode contains financial information and is not intended as financial advice or an endorsement by Jamvana or the Vana Room podcast host or its owners. Enjoy.
Thank you, Michael and Alex, for being on the show. We really appreciate your time.
Well, we appreciate you having us.
Of course, of course.
To be here.
So, kind of briefly get us started by introducing who you both are. Give us a kind of a brief overview of that. And then whoever wants to take the question of kind of what is Sound Royalties?
Why don't we start off with who we are? So I'm Alex Heiche, CEO and founder of Sound Royalties. Came into the industry with a passion of making a difference and bringing something to creatives that was friendly funding solutions, because music was my first love. It just wasn't my first language. As a kid, I played half a dozen instruments and rode my bike, but I could condition myself to play anything, but I couldn't speak. And I'm in awe to this day still of creatives that can tell a story through a melody or soothe us through words and connect with us, and so I kind of left music for a little bit and then came back with this passion to bring something forward. And then I was fortunate to connect up with Michael and some of our partners.
Cool. And
Mike?
so what? Oh yeah, Mike, go ahead.
Yeah, no, and I have a background in financial services, both from an entrepreneurial standpoint. Built my own financial services company fairly young. Then from there, ended up becoming part of a bank, sold it to the bank, and worked in all aspects of banking, particularly business-oriented financing. Ended up as president of one of the divisions of the bank. And it was great and it was a good run, but missed my entrepreneurial roots. Had a chance to meet Alex and understand the concepts and the ethical and real need that was being filled in the music space to help finance the music industry. Fell in love with it, fell in love with the people, and we got together and we've taken this thing and just exploded it.
I love that we're having this conversation with you gentlemen today. So thank you both for taking time out of your day to be here. And kind of leading into this conversation, I want to read something to you both that so I am in music business education. That is my full-time gig, if you will. And so I, on social media, I saw a aspiring artist post a very lengthy post, and I wanted to share with you just a little excerpt, if I may. So he starts off expressing his frustration about trying to get his art out there. And at the beginning of the second paragraph, he says, I believe that one of the biggest obstacles that I face is a lack of financial resources to promote my music. I understand that the music industry is a business and that it requires money to be successful, but as a struggling artist, I simply don't have the funds to effectively promote my work. I have had to use all my resources to produce and distribute my music, and I am left with very little left over for promotion.
Yeah.
He says it's disheartening to see other artists who have access to significant financial resources able to make it big while my music remains unheard by the wider audience. So I thought it was amazing that that post came across right before we had this conversation. And I got a bunch of questions, so I'm going to try to squeeze them in for you. But
Y'all better be prepared. She is relentless. So I hope you're ready.
I should have been a prosecutor or something.
Bring it
Anyway,
on.
but to kind of kick off the conversation, Alex, your background is music, and then Michael, your background is finance. I love that you guys kind of came together. What do you say to people, these young independent artists who really are nickel and diming themselves trying to make this happen before we even really get into Sound Royalties as a company? Just that sacrifice that they're making right now, trying to get the money to make this happen. What is your
So
What's your best piece of advice, or I don't know.
it's know the playing field, right? So 10 years ago, you needed a label. Maybe 15 years ago, you needed a label to want to promote your music, get it on radio, fund the works, fund the recording. And, there was this clamoring of, it's not fair. I've got great music and, the labels aren't giving me the deals and there's only limited amount of deals. And there was 30,000 new songs a year that were being released fighting for radio time. Right. At its peak, I think it went up to 80,000 new songs a day. It kind of came back down. And right now it's about 50,000 new songs is the consensus going up to Spotify. Because you can, on this MacBook Pro I'm looking at right now, talking to you, I got Pro Logic on here and I can record music and I can distribute it through TuneCore, SoundCloud, whatever. Right. So the labels are rightfully so being inundated with this avalanche of artists and works, and so they're waiting and picking people that have naturally gone a little bit higher. And so you do need to get yourself a little bit further up the ladder or up the score in the game a little bit before you get that next level and before you get that massive deal. And so you do need to fund yourself, and it starts off by nickel and diming and then keeps growing. And that's one of the reasons behind Sound Royalties. We enable, whether you're signed to a publisher, label, or distributor, or whether you're independent, to access funding, right? To apply to the resources you want, whether it's for professional reasons in your music or whether it's your personal life. But
And
it's
it sounds too good to be true. I'm gonna be honest. I've got that business background, and I'm not a musician. I'm more on the business side. It seems too good to be true, and I'll add on to that. A lot of creatives do not have the financial literacy necessary to really navigate themselves through the financial aspect. So to because I have my class look at your website and show
good.
them what they do, and they're like, no way, there's no way. So how do you get through to the naysayers about having access to it? Just tell me it's not this easy.
Well, the mantra we have heard, Michael and I were talking about this yesterday. The mantra has always been, at first it was, who are you? What do you do? And then it was like, yeah, it sounds too good to be true. And,
Hmm.
you probably saw the article. We had a hockey stick growth, 90% year over year, last year, because all of a sudden we were talking how there's this big change where people are like, oh, it is true, especially the bigger artists that are using their entertainment attorneys and stuff, and their attorneys looking at it like, yeah, this is what it says, right? And so one is it is true, but two is transparency. And I'm gonna, Michael, you
Hmm.
want to talk about
Yeah.
Yeah.
the transparency portion?
Right. So because of what, you're not the first one who has said that stuff. So the biggest way you deal with that is transparency, and that is just a core value of our company. And it exhibits itself in many ways. Number one, we give very simple, very easy to read disclosures. We customize every offer that we make to the individual creator. We give them this offer, plain English. We walk them through it. We then want to really try if they have a team. Yeah, maybe they have a manager, maybe they have a momager, maybe they have somebody who's a savvy friend or an attorney, and we bring them into the fold. We want to bring significant others into the fold. We take them through the process. And let's say, Monique, you're the end user. You worked with one of our royalty specialists, you've met with our sales management. Before we will convey the money to you at the end of the process, we have a separate department whose function is to then meet with you and hopefully your team and significant people, key influencers around you, walk you through everything again, the mechanics, the dollars, the way it works, the what ifs. Our people are specially trained that if they sense any hesitation or any amount of a lack of understanding, they have the authority to hold up the funding until we really can then meet with them and make sure that they understand. Our biggest nightmare, think about it, is somebody coming in and saying, I didn't understand, you didn't tell me. We're not in this for transactions. We build relationships. And you'd be
Yeah.
amazed how many times people come back to us because of the way we treat them.
Now,
Yeah.
is it, let's say I'm an independent artist, okay? And like the gentleman in the social media post I read to you, I know I need some funding. What what do you guys require uh I present? Do you need a business plan? Do you need a budget from me? Or are you very selective about who is able to utilize the service through their preparation financially?
Well, I think you have to understand that we're not looking to be somebody's partner, right?
Okay.
So we're not looking to a business plan. We're
No.
not doing something on speculation. We're not investing. If you boil it down, what we do is receivable financing using music royalty streams and other types of streams as well as a way to help them leverage what they're doing. There's no personal guarantees. There's no credit report. This is just about the income flow from the music. And I think Alex,
So
you
what?
can probably give some
Yeah,
insight into
Monique.
how that
Yeah.
came up.
Well put, Michael. I think another way is if someone's earning $5,000 a year from a royalty stream, they don't bring us a business plan. They don't bring us a budget. They don't bring us. Let us analyze that stream, and we can tell them what they qualify for.
Okay. All right. I see. Interesting. Um, Go ahead, Lennon.
What are do you guys have them like? Well, first of all, can you now? I think that now's a good time to kind of get into what is sound royalties. So, like, we talk about the finances and what is sound royalties.
Sound Royalties is a private financial institution that provides funding solutions to creatives by looking at their music royalties by stream, by payor, whether it's their performance rights, whether it's their publishing, whether it's their sound recording, right? Whether it's their neighboring rights, we allow them to advance on those royalties, get dollars today for a repayment that's a fixed dollar amount for a fixed period of time. So they know exactly, hey, I'm getting this, and this is what I'm going to pay back. End of story. And they're not ever putting at risk the copyrights, even if the streams don't pay as expected, right? We're taking that risk that it may take much longer, it may never come in, right? So there's no personal guarantees. They're not going to risk the copyright. And then the last thing is we ensure that they continue to have the opportunity to get income because we're not 100% recoupment. You know, we may say, hey, listen, out of this stream, pay us X dollars a year for the next 3 or 5 years. That's the payback. Anything above that per quarter or per year, you get. So they're incentivized to keep putting music in the system, incentivized to keep working, and they have an opportunity to continue their livelihood and earn money. So it's not 100% recoupment. And it works with over 130 publishers, PROs, labels, distributors right now is who we're working with, and that's growing daily, weekly, monthly. We're constantly working with new ones and expanding. So just about every income stream you can think of in the music industry, including tour financing, it's something that they should bounce off us and see what we can do for them.
Is there interest
No,
on
it's a
this at
fixed
all?
dollar amount for a fixed period of time. So we may say, great, here's $8, pay us back $2 a year for the next, let's say, 5 years, $10.
Mhm.
End of story. If it takes longer, there's no late penalties, no late fees. There's no interest. It's a temporary assignment of a fixed dollar amount for a fixed period of time.
Hmm.
Okay. And what's well, this seems kind of like, I was raised if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. And Monique
Mhm.
kind of touched on this earlier. So, how are you guys making money? Who's funding all of this? Is this out of your own pockets? Like, how are you guys paying for all this?
Michael, I think we lost Michael, so I'll dive in. But basically,
No,
we
he's there.
Yeah,
He's
I'm
here.
oh
here. I'm just having trouble. I'm just having trouble hearing a little bit. We got some echo on our end.
Oh, okay.
Um,
okay.
so
Go ahead, Michael.
yeah, so we're a privately held company. We have a combination of institutional and private financing that allows us to have access to whatever capital we need to be able to meet the needs of the music industry.
Hmm. And can this music also I'm sorry, music. Can the money also be used if I'm a new artist, I'm putting my music out, and I decide I want to create a record label of my own or a publishing company of my own, can is the money that I'm being advanced, is that strictly towards just royalties, or can I actually start a business with that money and then pay you guys back out of any other revenue stream I develop out of this new entity I create?
So the advances off the royalty stream that we work with you on, and there's no limitations onto what you use that music for. You know, we've got individuals, a producer that came to us to fund a studio and build a studio, and I think there was an announcement about that.
Okay.
We've got others that have worked on marketing. We have had some that bought, a house, consolidated debt. So it's personal, professional reasons.
Okay.
You have the complete flexibility to then use those funds that best suits your needs.
Go ahead, Lennon.
I didn't have anything.
Okay. So I because I'll monopolize the conversation. So with that being said, where who is your primary target? Is your primary target these startups? Or would you say your primary target audience are your mid-level musicians with already some sort of following that just need a little extra push? Because I'm my fear is that the people who are just getting started aren't going to follow through, and then they're going to end up. And so I guess you said there's no interest. So what happens if there's no success, or they go, you know what, I can't do this anymore. Now what? Like how do they pay you back? Especially if it's not affecting their credit, which is a great thing.
Yep.
But now I'm worried about you guys.
No. So the thing to understand, our target is to all those, yes, right? We work with major global Grammy award-winning platinum superstars,
Mm,
and we work with the artist or writer that's just getting their foothold and earning about $5,000 a year. But what we're advancing on is we're looking at that income stream and what they've been doing and what we project it'll do over the next few years. Not that they're going to keep writing and release another hit and do this. As they do that, we build a relationship with them so that as they continue to grow, they can come back and get more. Right.
okay. That was my
So
next question.
it's not take this advance and don't come back till you're about to recoup. And these are it's an ongoing relationship, and so that new artist or writer may not get as much as they would like to have,
Mm-hmm.
but they'll likely get enough to make some momentum happening, and
Mm-hmm.
then keep at it, right? And keep and we're there. And if it doesn't pay out from what we believe it's going to earn, we're taking that risk that, hey, it may not pay back in 5 years. You know,
Mm,
that's because let's face it, who should be analyzing and understanding the stream? The business side of the music, not the creative. And so we take that responsibility.
So I looked at your team, and there's a lot of very qualified individuals, such as Michael. There, not that you aren't Alex, but but such as Michael and the others who clearly have the financial background necessary to make sure you guys are, like you said, looking over these for the proper investment. For I don't know if that's a fair term, but um, so I guess my next question would be, you said you can come back and get more money, right? Is there any, and I know this is not your job, but I'm just curious, because I this almost feels like, in major sports, when you have these young athletes that get into sports, they make these $1 million deals. One of
Yep.
the things that the league does is um, financial literacy with them, talk to them about spending the money. It's not your job. I understand that, gentlemen. But are you doing any of that
Well,
before
it's
somebody comes and gets
interesting.
money?
I'm going to let
When we
Michael
say
talk
it's
to
not our
financial
job,
literacy. I'm going
I'm
to let
sorry.
Michael talk to financial literacy, and I'm going to talk to the investment portion of it. Michael.
Okay,
Perfect.
okay.
Perfect.
Yeah, the reality is that it is our job. Go back to what I said a little while ago about not doing transactions and creating relationships. We take a very consultative approach. What you talked about is what somebody, when I first came to the music side of it, told me is the bag of cash, right? And the default of the music industry is to take the biggest bag of cash you can get your hands on. We do a lot of education and consulting with them. So Alex mentioned somebody who comes to us to build a studio. Well, okay, we'll qualify you for $300,000, but you're telling us that you only need 150 to launch the studio.
Yeah.
Take the 150. Let's launch the studio. Let's get your income going. And if you need to come back to us for more, we're still here. As I said, we're in it for the long game. Our reputation means
Mhm.
everything to us. Both Alex and I have spoken to college students, high school students.
Mhm.
Here in West Palm, we have a program for junior achievement through the local high schools where we want people to understand. We speak on a lot of panels, seminars about what you can do. Look, Alex used a word that I like to use. I too am in awe of creatives. I really am, because I'm not one. I've been banging drums since I'm 7, but I said banging drums, not playing, for a very specific reason. But we also work very hard to help the music creative community understand that you are a business. Yes, you're an artist, but you're a business. And we work with them, we work with their teams to help to understand how they do that. Our average customer comes back to us over 4 times. A high, I believe, is we had one artist come back to us, a songwriter, I think 17 times. We're here for them. We don't want to set them up to fail. And then, okay, is it because we're good people? We like to think so, but it's also good business. If we
Sure.
set somebody up to fail, go back to what Alex said earlier, we lose the money and we lose our reputation. That's an exponential loss for us. And that's the kind of the way we become part of the fabric of the industry is by taking this approach to the marketplace. We're not just about money. If you go onto our website, you'll see that we use our facilities here to help our creators create content, and they have
Mm.
access to that content. We create networking events for the people in the Sound Royalties family that want to be
Oh,
that.
I
That's
like that.
the market position that Alex staked out in
I
his
like that.
original vision that we worked very hard to get out there.
Mhm.
So
Alex, you said you were gonna say something about the investment.
yeah, that's a common term and a misconception, and it's very important to
Okay.
understand the differentiator, right? You
Mhm.
may go to publisher, label, distributor, an investor, a private investor that comes in and invests in your work and says, "Hey, pay me back X dollars." But you end up making millions, they get a percentage of those millions, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
That's investment. That's not us. We're financing. We'll say, "Hey, we're going to give you this, pay us back this." End of story. You end up making millions, you still pay us the same amount. You end up making billions, you pay us the same amount, and we don't take ownership in your creative works. You don't make millions, you don't make billions, it comes up less. Well, okay, it's not coming back on you personally or your copyrights.
Mhm.
Cool. I have a couple questions that have come up. So when you guys are analyzing and an artist comes to you and you're analyzing their stats and what it is they want to finance, how are you predicting this? Are you're pulling, tour streams, revenue streams, but how are you predicting and to what accuracy are you able to predict to?
There's you want to take it or you want me to?
No, go ahead, Alex.
Right. So there's over 14 different factors that we look at.
Mm.
And so let's take, for example, we're looking at someone's performing rights catalog. Their performance rights on the publishing side, right? We'll look at the size of the catalog. Is it spread out over many works or one? What is the age of the works, right? Are they standards? Are they, what are the genres? Some genres will spike overnight and disappear from the charts next week, and others are on a long, slow rise and a long, slow tail that'll keep paying for indefinitely forever. We look at over 14 different factors to determine that and to then predict what a stream is going to earn. And from that, we'll conservatively come forward with options, not just one, but we'll work with the creative to understand what their needs are and what would best solve their need. Do they really want to pay it back in 6 months, 1 year? Are they selling a catalog and they just need a bridge for a couple months? They'd rather stretch it out over 5 years because they want to keep as much income as possible, right? And then we'll develop options and we'll present them with 3 options to look at. and determine what's the best way to embark on that relationship with Sound Royalties.
And it's all customized. That's the key.
Yeah.
Again, I ran a bank, so I understand. You want to be able to stick your statements into a machine and have the machine stick out cash. Well, okay, that's one approach. That's not really going to get people to their goals. That's not going to get people set up to succeed. That's a transaction, which is the opposite of what we represent. So if you take what Alex was saying, we'll never take a partnership. We'll never take a piece of somebody's future. And then these different components are going to allow us to customize what's best for each individual.
Um, so one more question, and then I'll turn it over to you, Mo. So if an artist comes to you, or a songwriter, or whomever comes to you, and they just don't have the streams or whatever the money, like let's say they need $10,000, but they only have enough to get $4,000. Are they able to put up other forms of collateral, like their car or anything, or is that not necessary? How would you navigate that situation?
So if you go to our website, we have a document called 50 income streams every creative should know about and where to find them. Right. And
Hmm.
so if they show us one stream and say, we feel comfortable that you could start off advancing with $4,000, as that grows, they can come back to more, or they can show us those other income and royalty streams in the music business. Are we going to take collateral, a house or a car? No, there's no personal guarantees. This is not a loan, right? It's royalty advances, but they typically, quite often, are not collecting everything they should.
Mhm.
You get that writer that comes in and says, "Yeah, I'm collecting my publishing. I'm with BMI." Well, do you have two accounts? Are you collecting your publishing side, and then what are you doing about your sync and mechanicals, right?
Mhm.
So those conversations, we're not taking ownership, but we are developing a collaborative partnership type relationship to help them understand, hey, this is the areas that you should be collecting from and can earn. And that document's on, a lot of schools use it, by the way, Monique, to share. Um, these are all the different streams with hyperlinks
Mhm.
on where to find them.
Mm.
Mhm.
I'll have to grab that.
On your website, under your services, you have royalty financing and then catalog sales support as two separate services you offer. So if I'm not doing royalty financing and I'm talking to you about my catalog, is there a fee for that particular service, but not for the royalty financing?
So there is a fee for the royalty financing.
Oh,
It's a fixed
okay.
payment for a fixed period of time, right? In terms of catalog financing, catalog sales support, what we're talking about there is if someone's going to sell their catalog, right? There typically tends to be a money motivating factor, right?
Right.
And when that happens, it tends to create a sense of urgency to get it done.
Correct.
And so one of the very first things we can do is say, listen, if you're going to sell the catalog, we understand, we don't buy, but we can give you short term financing, months, right? Until to make sure you find the right home for your catalog,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
And it's a relationship, and we'll share our knowledge as much as we can with them to give them as much guidance. But at its core, that's the most valuable piece
Okay.
in catalog support that we provide someone.
Yeah, because when I looked at that, I looked at that as the catalog sales support side seemed to just be like a counseling session or advising session where there wasn't going to be any necessary assistance financially. Whereas the royalty financing, I got that,
Yeah.
and I see where you guys are coming from on that side, but I guess I just misunderstood how
No,
the
that
catalog.
we do. If someone's thinking about selling their catalog, they should pick up the phone and talk to one of our royalty specialists,
Mhm.
and they will share lots of nuances and knowledge and whatever we can to give that individual the proper guidance.
Sure.
Think about it. When someone sells their house, who's the first person to get paid? The bank. And so we
Mhm.
have thousands of creative streams that we're working with, and when
Mhm.
they sell, the buyers come to us to pay us off, so we know who the buyers are, what they're paying. There's so many different layers, and that's not our core business, but it's certainly worth a conversation
Absolutely.
with one of our royalty specialists, and happy to share whatever we can um, to help a creative.
It absolutely is a conversation because we actually already had an episode where we talked about artists selling their catalogs and why we are seeing a major influx of this now, which could be any number of reasons. Based on our conversation, it's, to your point, a financial need, an immediate financial need, or capital gains tax, or whatever the situation may be that is creating that need. But I think it's great that you guys have that as an option, especially because we're seeing that so much now. And I think there are a lot of, because our audience is going to be predominantly independent artists with little capital to
Yeah,
support their career. And I love that there is an option like Sound Royalties out there. And you guys are really making this sound uh very appealing. It's almost scary to me because I'm like, wow, this is so great, because there are so many independent artists that need money for marketing. Like,
yeah,
marketing is the biggest part of the budget, and they
yep,
can't compete with the major labels. So in my mind, I'm watching Sound Royalties actually grow
yeah,
into some of these other facets that will actually make sure that these artists are getting what they need. Because, to your point, Alex, so many these creatives, that's what they know, but they don't understand business at all.
yeah,
And this money is just so important. The question is when you get the money, can you make the money grow so you can pay back your obligation and, hopefully turn a profit, not just revenue, but actually turn a profit on all of this. So where are you finding most of your because, like I said, I'm working with students. These
yeah.
are music industry students. Are you finding your demographic is much younger than you anticipated, or without telling me too much?
No, I think you can look at the website, and look, there are customers who let us use their name. You can imagine, for everyone that lets us use their name, there's probably a dozen that won't let us use their name and want
Of
privacy,
course.
and
Of
we
course.
respect that. But you'll see the full spectrum of some of the biggest superstars out there. And people, as Alex said earlier, we start as long as they're making $5,000. We
Mhm.
really do run the spectrum. Some of our greatest stories are the ones where we started with somebody early on when they were just starting out, either whether it's an artist or a songwriter or a producer, and then nurturing their career together with them. And you mentioned something before. Remember, we don't only work with the artists. I mentioned songwriters. I mentioned producers. We
Oh,
also
true.
work with
Yeah.
small independent labels and mid-sized distributors, because they get their share of the royalty stream, and we're able to help finance them as well.
I like that. What would you say, in your opinion, are the top 3 things you want people to know or understand about Sound Royalties? Like, your top 3 key, like, 100%, this is what I want you to know about Sound Royalties.
That, number one, everybody finances something. And if
Mm,
you are looking for any type of funding, you should check with a royalty specialist, right? That would probably be number one. Michael, you want to take number two, and we'll kind of bounce back and forth.
Yeah, well, I think number two is we'll never take ownership
Yeah,
under any circumstance. I've kind of come up with a little flip way to say it. When I was in banking, we didn't take people's children as collateral. Well, you know what? To an artist, music are their children, and we won't
Yeah.
take them as collateral or your music as collateral either.
yeah,
Yeah?
I love that one. I love that one,
Mhm.
Michael. And
That's
then
good.
and then three, that there are options to get funding for your works, right? Without putting them as risk, as Michael just said, but also without giving up your income stream. Most
Mhm,
advances the industry has been touching on is, hey, you take this advance, you're not going to see a penny till you recoup. Well, it's tough
mhm,
enough in America to live paycheck to paycheck when you're 2 weeks apart. Now, drag
mhm.
that paycheck a year and a half from now, you're probably going to have to sell it, right?
Mhm.
Mhm.
There are solutions Sound Royalties provides them that you can get funding and keep an income stream.
And thank you for answering my question. And I think it's also, again, this is just my vision or how I'm seeing it, so feel free to chime in. I don't I think it's important for those that may need your services to understand this is not a long-term thing. This is a short-term get my get myself off the ground with this business and then let the business do what it needs to do, pay back what I borrowed, and then hopefully you have a good business model and a plan to make your business run. I because my fear, even though you guys don't have the interest and any of the pitfalls that happens when you borrow money from other sources, I definitely don't want to see people um kind of use this as like they're like people do credit cards,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
You understand what like? I'm probably not vocalizing it very well, but that's where my mind is at. I want
Not
them to
responsible.
understand this is a great option for short term borrowing to get yourself to where you need to be, but don't. I mean,
Yeah.
again, there's really no pitfall there, but at the same time, I want to see your business do well. I don't want to see you keep borrowing
Yeah.
money.
Mhm.
You know what I
Well,
mean?
you're hired, Monique, because it's one of the things when people come to us for funding, they're like, well, I could sign a publishing deal and get $1 million, or I could get this. We're not saying take money, take money, take money. We're saying,
Right,
hey, why don't we start off a little smaller and
right,
see if you can accomplish what you need, because you can always come back for more,
right.
right? And then you asked for three, but I got to give you four.
Give me
And,
4.
Let's hear it.
and that is the common misconception is I'm signed to a major label or publisher, I'm unrecouped. It doesn't matter. If you're signed, if you're independent, if you're recouped or not recouped, we can often still help. And so it's worth a conversation.
And I want
That
to build on one of the things you were both talking about a moment ago too. That's why, and Monique, I think, like Alex said, you're hired. I like that, Alex. Always looking to grow. I love it. And you too, Lennon. So, but I think that part of it is that you got to understand that in our model, we do not take a part of your future. Alex talked about that earlier,
Yeah.
right? In his example, but no matter what you make it, that's none of our business. We don't take a percentage of your futures. We don't take a percentage of what's to come. We don't take a percentage of what you're using the money for. It's a critical distinction. And it would be, among the top things that we would tell people to be aware of when they are looking for financing out there.
Mhm.
Yeah.
so I'm wondering, I know you said they could borrow the money for anything. I guess I'm hung up on the name too, Sound Royalties. So
Yep.
in my mind, I'm thinking, yes, I'm putting out music, but if I'm an artist and I launch a clothing line
Mhm.
from money that I borrowed from you guys, does that still count? But you already said you could buy a house, you could do whatever you want.
Yeah.
So I get hung up on the name. I'm sorry.
Sound royalties. So one, we're advancing music royalties, but actually we do film and some other stuff as well.
Oh, okay.
And then
Mm.
two, it's a sound decision to work
Oh,
this way rather
look
than
at
give up the
that.
rights,
I
right?
love it.
So it's those two factors. We're working with the royalty stream, but it's also a sound decision.
Is that a tagline I missed? Because I love it.
We'll work
That
on it. We'll
that
add it.
fixed it for me.
It's implicit. Look, I think we just want to make sure that it's clear. We don't lend. We
Yep.
provide financing through advances. We don't charge interest, but of course we do charge a fee. And as Alex said, it's a fixed amount of money for a fixed return. It's fully defined. We talked about transparency and our obsession with it earlier. The
Mhm.
great news is that we could do all this work and do the analysis and come back to somebody and tell them what we can do, and they can look and they can go, no, thank you. And we say, okay, hey, let's stay in touch. We still want to hear about how you're doing.
Yep.
And the other side of it is, again, we encourage them to bring their teams in. If they have whoever is on their team, whatever constitute that particular creative team, we want them in the process as well.
And I know people can go to your website and look, which we will put down below this video. Everybody will be able to see I got to do the YouTube down below. um, they can go to your website and get pretty much most of the information. But I'm sure somebody wants to know, if I come to you guys and you approve my request for, let's say, 3 grand, okay? How fast do I get that 3 grand? Like, how long do I have to wait before I actually get it in my bank account, or however you guys
You want?
distribute
Go
that
ahead, Em.
money?
It depends on the payor, but it's very quick. We could be talking days to weeks, depending on the process, depending on the royalty stream we're working with.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
right, and so, but it's relatively quick.
Okay. All right.
And then the other thing that you just touched on that we haven't talked about is when you take an advance and you take $3,000, you take $30,000, you take $3 million. Okay, you deserve the ability to pick up the phone and speak to someone and get someone on the phone. And that's something that we pride ourselves in is, every creative that works with us has the ability to speak with someone and work with us directly to understand. It's not just some website, you click some buttons, some money appears, and good luck, right? Make sure that you can pick up the phone and call someone and do. We've got great royalty specialists that would love to hear from you, and we all would, you know.
I think that's important for creatives, because creatives are not. It's kind of funny. They're digital in the sense of how they create, but they are not digital when it comes to needing to communicate. They really do need a human being, and I see this a lot with the PROs when people have problems with their accounts and they're like, "I can't get anybody on the phone. I keep getting press this button, press that button." Like, so I think the customer service side of it is huge.
It's
It is so huge for creatives, because their
yeah,
personalities are different too, and
yeah,
it helps to have someone who can be patient and really break it down, because this is a bit this part is the business side that
yep,
they just not. I'm not making all creative sounds like idiots. That's not what I'm trying to do. But I've been teaching for 20 years, music business. So I see the dynamic in the personality. And out of a group of 100, you'll get maybe 5 who are the business type, you know? So for those that are coming to you that are not the business type, I think it's wonderful that you have an actual human being that people can, talk to.
And
Um,
to break it down a little further, each person who works with us is assigned to their own royalty specialist. So they
mhm,
have their person. In addition, we have what we call royalty support, which is our customer service center, which are
mhm.
staffed with people who can answer questions. It's not, they sit here, if you look behind me, they sit here in our headquarters in Florida, and they can be reached. We have a management structure. And if you look at my business card and Alex's business card, our cell phones are on there.
Oh,
Everybody
ooh,
here can be reached.
you guys are brave.
yeah. This is not just this is not just a mom and pop company. We've got 50 full-time employees
Mm.
trying to help creatives every day.
Well,
And you
52,
guys
you
you
just
guys are
hired
here.
us.
Yeah, you just got 2 more.
Yeah, you get
Yeah,
2 more, so 52.
We'll be speaking to HR later. Um, now you guys are here in Florida, right? Or
Yeah, our headquarters is in Florida. I'm based here with our headquarters here in West Palm Beach, Florida. We do have
okay.
people in some of the key music cities around the country.
Cool.
Alex?
and I'm in Nashville. My primary residence. I live in Nashville.
Yeah.
I may send my I'm working with a country artist. I may have to send him, and he's in Nashville. So I may have to get you guys into, or get him to reach out.
Yeah, I'd love to connect.
I I after speaking with you guys, I love what you're about. I think you represent your mission well. I think you represent the creative community well in how you presented this. um it's so funny because, like I said, I had my students give me
Yeah,
feedback before my interview. I said, what do you guys want to know? and they're like, this is not right. There's something wrong. And after speaking with you, I'm like, it sounds pretty legit to me. Uh, I
Well,
guess you don't.
if you want to cut out the middleman, we either one of us or both of us, we'd be happy to speak to your students. We'd be thrilled to do that and answer any of the questions they have, or we can be helpful. Again, we do a lot in the field of financial education and literacy throughout the industry, whether it's for again the management side, the key influencer side, the creative side. Alex and I both, as I said earlier, spoken. We'd be happy to talk to them directly as well.
I like I said, I mean, I after speaking with you guys, I'm like, I get it. And I love that this exists because just like that gentleman that made that social media post, the frustration, you put so much effort into your art and then you have no financial means or significant financial means to get it out. So I love this as an option, and I did see your comparison chart against you and other companies, and I think the biggest thing is you're not trying to take anybody's intellectual property, and that's massive. That's massive.
Thank you.
So
Thank
Yes.
you.
thank you. We
You're
really
welcome.
appreciate you having us on the show.
Thank you guys for being here. Thank you for
Yeah.
your time. And yes, I may most certainly reach out and get you on campus here in beautiful Orlando. Michael, since you're so close, we're right around the corner. So
Absolutely.
Mm. Yeah,
but thank you guys so much. Lennon, you got anything?
yeah, I just want to thank you guys as well. I've heard of Sound Royalties, been following you guys for a while, and love what you guys. Now that I'm able to connect and really understand what you guys are all about, you're a very rarity in the music industry,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a lot of
Mm-hmm.
scams and a lot of people trying to take advantage of these creatives, which is
Yep.
so unethical and really hurts my heart. And you guys
Mm-hmm.
seem very genuine, and
Mm-hmm.
happy to support in any way that I can. And hopefully one day I'll be able to reach out to you guys, and hopefully you guys can help
Great.
me out because
Well,
I'm
Thank
a
you.
looking
That's
musician
forward to that.
awesome.
myself,
Thank
and
Thanks,
you.
buddy.
and working to get in there as well. So
Yeah,
really appreciate you guys'
definitely.
support and for being on the show.
Thanks very
Thank
Thank
much.
you.
you.
Yeah, thank you. Bye, guys.
Bye bye.